The ultimate sacrifice, Sukuna's shocking death, and Yuji's insane new cursed technique. Jujutsu Kaisen is absolutely going off right now, and Gege isn't pulling any punches. We need to talk about what just happened, we need to talk about that twist in the end, so let's get into it. You guys know how this works. If you enjoy my JJK videos, you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now for that YouTube algorithm. And if you want to help this channel attain special grade status by hitting 2 million subscribers, do me a huge favor and subscribe right now. We are less than 10k subscribers away from 2 million, we're so close. Finally, this video will of course contain JJK manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. In the previous chapter, there was an all-out war between Sukuna on the one side and Yuji, Higuruma, Kusakabe, Choso, and Ino on the other. Sukuna noticed that all the sorcerers had gotten stronger, and he was impressed by their ability to improve so much in such a short period of time. But at the same time, Sukuna was still dominating the fight, despite it being 5-on-1. Sukuna managed to seriously injure Choso after Choso tried to attack him, and he also effectively dealt with all the attacks initiated by the other sorcerers. In what turned out to be a bit of foreshadowing, we learned that Ino's blade had been imbued with Nanami's curse technique, which made Ino's attack a lot more powerful than Sukuna had expected. But again, this wasn't enough to actually threaten Sukuna, and in the end we saw Yuji racing to stop Sukuna from hunting down Higuruma. Preventing Sukuna from killing Higuruma was extremely important, because Higuruma and his curse technique were the best hope that the sorcerers had of actually defeating Sukuna. That's because the Executioner's sword has the power to kill anyone, even Sukuna, and yet at the same time, it only harms those who have been judged guilty and given a death sentence. This means that the Executioner's sword would kill Sukuna without actually harming Megumi's soul. So this could literally be the only way of defeating Sukuna without seriously harming Megumi in the process. The end of the chapter went out of its way to emphasize what an incredible natural talent Higuruma is as a sorcerer. Even though he first became a sorcerer less than 2 months ago, he has shown extraordinary growth, and even Sukuna was highly impressed by Higuruma's power and potential. In fact, after Higuruma was able to learn domain amplification on the spot in order to neutralize Sukuna's technique, Higuruma's talent was said to be equal to Satoru Gojo's, which as we know is incredibly high praise. Gojo had his entire life to perfect his skills and master his curse technique, and of course he had the 6 eyes. And yet Higuruma was able to accomplish so much in less than 2 months. Unfortunately for Higuruma, the latest chapter showed that talent is not the only thing that he and Gojo have in common. The latest chapter again calls Higuruma a Jujutsu genius, and Sukuna acknowledges that Higuruma's mastery of his curse technique is at a similar level to his own. We all know that is insanely high praise coming from Sukuna, and he even does Higuruma the honor of referring to him directly by his name, Higuruma Hiromi. But then, Sukuna initiates some kind of earthquake jutsu that turns the entire battlefield into rubble. And before you know it, Higuruma and Yuji are again struggling against Sukuna in a desperate 2-on-1. Sukuna manages to land a web of slashes on Yuji, and as Yuji falls to the ground, bleeding profusely, Sukuna mocks him yet again. The King of Curses tells Yuji that he is a bore, and that there isn't a single interesting bone in his body. I find it quite intriguing that Sukuna keeps going out of his way to point out that Yuji isn't anyone special, and that his existence means absolutely nothing to Sukuna. It's almost like Sukuna is emphasizing this point a little too much. Does Sukuna know something about Yuji that we don't? And is he actually belittling Yuji in this way as a coping mechanism because he knows that in reality Yuji is special? I mean, he is literally a human experiment created and birthed by Kenjaku himself. So there's no way that Yuji is just some random, uninteresting nobody. I think Sukuna has it out for Yuji specifically because he knows that Yuji is special in some way, but that's just my gut feeling. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, and of course don't forget to like and subscribe to put some respect on our boy Yuji's name. After Yuji is temporarily taken out of the game by Sukuna, Higuruma tries to hold his own using the Executioner's sword, but it is extremely difficult and Sukuna is clearly the one controlling the fight. After landing some blows on Higuruma, Sukuna ends up severing the lawyer's right arm. Then as a bleeding Higuruma struggles to stay on his feet, Sukuna tells him to go on and heal himself. The last chapter reminded us that Higuruma does not know how to use reverse curse technique to heal his injuries, at least not yet. But Sukuna is determined to test the full extent of this man's potential by forcing him to unlock RCT right now in real time. Sukuna then proceeds to cut off Higuruma's other arm, and now Higuruma doesn't even have possession of the Executioner's sword anymore because the sword drops down to the ground along with his severed hand. Sukuna then goads Higuruma, telling him that if he doesn't learn to use reverse curse technique right now, he will lose his head as well, and this will be the end for him. As the lawyer contemplates his role in this fight and the prospect of dying at the hands of Sukuna, the King of Curses is attacked by another piercing blood attack. Although we don't see the attacker, Sukuna suggests that the attack came from the older cursed womb death painting brother Choso, and he calls him stubborn. This means that despite being severely injured in the previous chapter, Choso is still alive, at least for now. Unless that attack actually came from Yuji, who somehow managed to learn Choso's piercing blood technique. Given Yuji's recent physical transformation, we know that he has some sort of power-up that we are yet to fully witness. But is the ability to use Choso's blood manipulation a part of that power-up, or is it something else altogether? From this chapter alone, it is not clear yet, but overall, that piercing blood attack was little more than a brief distraction for Sukuna because he ends up blocking it quite easily. And yet, that brief distraction was enough for Higuruma to awaken his reverse curse technique. He regenerates his arms like a freaking Titan shifter from Attack on Titan and pierces Sukuna's hand with the Executioner's sword. Higuruma thinks this must be it. The legendary Executioner's sword has made contact with Sukuna's flesh, and the sword can kill anyone it touches, so that means that Sukuna must be about to die now, right? Well, no, it was never going to be that easy and we all knew it. As it turns out, just before Higuruma managed to pierce Sukuna's hand, Sukuna managed to cut off his hand, which presumably negated the effects of the Executioner's sword on his body. Now, if you're asking yourself, wouldn't it be easier for Sukuna to just dodge the attack instead of going through the trouble of cutting his own hand off? Don't worry, I'm asking myself that too, but this method does have a lot more flair, so there's that. In that moment, Higuruma realizes that he failed to defeat Sukuna and that he is about to die. But he also finally comes to understand his true role in this battle. As Kusakabe said to him earlier, it is possible that curses get stronger after death, and maybe the same goes for a curse technique like Judgment. And so Higuruma decides that he must die right here and now, but before he dies, he manages to transfer his own curse technique onto Yuji. On top of that, as Yuji rejoins the battle and appears behind Sukuna, Higuruma manages to throw the Executioner's sword over to Yuji. Then, much like Nanami, Higuruma says that he's done what he can, and Yuji has got it from here. Then, in a massive twist, we see Yuji seemingly stabbing Sukuna in the back from behind with the Executioner's sword. Higuruma appears to have sacrificed his life, but in return, Yuji managed to kill Sukuna. Sukuna is definitely dead now, right guys? Gege is definitely not gonna pull another reverse Uno on us with Sukuna like he did so many times before, right? Right? I mean, Gege does like to subvert our expectations, but I still fully expect Sukuna to survive this. Either he will dodge at the last moment, or he has some other trick up his sleeve, but even with Higuruma's sacrifice, there is no way that Sukuna is going to go down so easily. That said, I am fascinated by the fact that Higuruma was seemingly able to transfer his curse technique and the Executioner's sword over to Yuji, even after his apparent death. Like, did he make some kind of binding vow in order to do this? A binding vow that required Higuruma to die at the hands of Sukuna for the vow to actually be completed? Or is Higuruma actually still alive? This chapter sure set it up as if Higuruma just sacrificed his life. We even had that little Nanami moment, but maybe Gege is deliberately misleading us yet again. I mean, Higuruma literally just awakened his ability to use reverse curse technique, so he might be able to use it again to survive being cut down by Sukuna. Whatever happens to the lawyer guy, this was an incredibly intense chapter, and this stuff about potentially transferring your curse technique onto someone else is a huge deal, even if it can only be done after the original user's death. Like, imagine if Gojo somehow managed to transfer his curse technique to someone else, like Yuta. That would be absolutely broken beyond belief. So yeah, the idea that something like this is even possible is absolutely crazy. Okay, quick question for you guys. If you could pick one sorcerer in the story to transfer his technique to another sorcerer, who would you pick? Gojo to Yuta? Kashimo to Hakari? Which power combination would be the coolest? Let me know right now. Also, do you think Higuruma is really dead? Do you think Yuji wielding the Executioner's sword could actually kill Sukuna? Can the Executioner's sword grant new powers to Yuji, the likes of which we haven't seen before? Leave your feedback down below. I can't wait to see what happens next, and I'd love to see what you guys think will happen now. If you're looking for an epic JJK video to watch next, check out this video where I cope hard about Gojo and talk about why he's totally not really dead, you guys. Link on screen and in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like to let me know. And if you want to help this channel attain special grade status by hitting 2 million subscribers, do me a huge favor and subscribe right now. Subscribing on YouTube is completely free, and we are less than 10K away from 2 million.